Hello and welcome to another Fabula Ultima class feature. This is the Chanter, a guide by Fabula Points, me. So the Chanter is the first class that we get in the High Fantasy Atlas book, and let's jump straight in and talk about it. So, first off, free benefits, you permanently increase your maximum mind points by 5, which is pretty good. This is a mind point heavy kind of class. I forgot to mention this is like your bard kind of singing kind of class, or like the performance kind of class. It's kind of similar to the orator in that way. They fulfill kind of similar kind of roles, but they work very differently. So the way the chanter works is through this magic chant skill. You can get up to 10 skill points in this, but magic chant is basically the main reason to get this class, so you're probably always going to want to start with it. So the way it works, on your turn during a conflict scene, you may use an action and spend a variable amount of MP to weave voice and music into a magical effect known as a verse. You may only sing one verse per turn. Even if you have access to multiple actions, the full rules for verses can be found starting on the next page. When you first acquire the skill, you learn all 3 volumes plus 1 key and 1 tone. When you acquire the skill again, you may learn 1 key or 1 tone. So that's a very important distinction, right? Sorry about cough. Right. Let's jump straight into magic chant, and then we'll talk about all the rest of the skills and how they affect that later. So, singing a verse. The volume determines the intensity, which is who can kind of hear it. Tone is the general effects, and the key is like whether you're like dealing damage or things like that. It'll be easier to explain while we go through. So, a low volume targets either yourself or another creature who can see or hear you. A medium volume is every ally who can hear you, and a high volume is every enemy who can hear you. So this is the variable MP. So to target all enemies, it costs 30 mind points. Then the key is your kind of damage types and your affinities and things like that. So the first one is Key of Flame, which is a fire type with a shaken effect, attribute might, and recovery hit points. It makes more sense to go back and talk about this after I go through tone. So I'm going to power on to tone, and then I'm going to come back as I'm going through tone. Okay. So the first tone, Calm. Each target recovers key recovery equal to 10 plus twice your willpower die size. So if you look at this recovery column, there's hit points and mind points. So depending on the key you have is to which recovery it does. The amount of recovery increases by 10 if you're level 20, or by 20 if you're level 40. And if this tone causes MP recovery, it has no effect on the character who sings it. So you can use this to recover the MP of all your allies, not yourself, or you can recover HP of everyone, including yourself. Next one is Energetic. So until the start of your next turn, when a target succeeds on a check that includes key attribute, which is this attribute thing, might, willpower, dexterity, or insight, and that check allows them to advance or turn back a clock, they may fill or erase an additional section of the clock. So if there's like a core mechanic that's going on that you kind of know about, where the like enemy boss is trying to do some kind of magic barrier that'll make him invincible or something, you can use like your willpower to try and like erase the clock. This will make it higher if you have the right key. So it's situational a bit. You kind of have to know what you're going into, and you have to be like a group that heavily use clocks, which I highly recommend. Clocks are amazing. But yeah, it's very situational. Next one is Frantic. Each target suffers key type damage, which is the type here, equal to twice your current willpower die. So obviously Fire, Ice, Physical, Bolt, so on and so forth. This tone deals 10 extra damage if you're level 20 or higher, or 20 extra damage if you're level 40 or higher. So this is your attacking one. So pretty straightforward, you just deal damage. Haunting means each target suffers key status effect, which is shaken, weak, slow, or dazed, from this column. And each target also loses resistance to the damage type until the start of your next turn. Now, I really don't like the start of your next turn. I wish this was longer, or I wish there was a way to extend it, but there kind of isn't. Or at least for now. Like, let's move on. I'll explain what I mean in a minute. Lively. Each target treats their key attribute, which is might, willpower, and so on, as being 1 dice size higher until the start of your next turn. Now this is quite nice. You're able to do it on yourself, but if you do it on yourself, you've used your action, and then at the start of your next turn, it's gone. so it's a bit useless to use on yourself, to be honest. This is more of a support thing. Menacing means the first time each target suffers damage before the start of your next turn, that damage becomes key type, which is fire, physical, bolt, dark earth, so on. This can trigger only once for each target of the verse separately. So if you've got 3 enemies, you do this and you've got the stone key, for example, the key type is earth, and then the first attack each of the enemies get will be earth damage. Except you can't use this for yourself again, because by the time it's the start of your next turn, it's over. So this is very much a supporting others class, not able to do much yourself. And then solemn, each target recovers from key status effect. Each target also gains resistance to key damage type until the start of your next turn. So, like, I hope the key makes more sense because of the tone. And again, when you take the magic chant skill, you get all the volumes. You can choose one key and one tone, and then every time you take the skill afterwards, you choose either another key or another tone. You don't get both again. So that's magic chant. It's kind of like the core of the chanter. It's got potential. I like it, but again, it's very situational. The next skill is resonance. You can take up to 3 levels in this. After you affect one or more enemies with a verse, if you have an arcane weapon equipped, you may choose one option. Until the start of your next turn, your allies deal skill level extra damage to those enemies, or until the start of your next turn, you recover skill level mind points every time one of the enemies suffer damage. So this is a way that you can get mind points back. But bear in mind, to affect more than one enemy, you need to spend 30 MP. And if you max this out, then you get 3 mind points back every attack. So there'll have to be 10 attacks within the next turn to break even. So this will be a way to get a little bit of MP back, but it's not going to be a way to recharge yourself. And if the source deals damage to 2 or more of the enemy at the same time, you recover MP for each damaged enemy. So if someone has a multi, it works like that. Cool. Next one, Siren Song. You gain the ability to perform rituals of the ritualism discipline. Additionally, you may use ritualism to create hearing-based illusions. Now, this, to me, isn't great. So a lot of the classes that can use rituals gain the ability to use ritualism rituals as their free benefits. And hearing-based illusions, while you can work around that and make it good, like, it doesn't seem worth an entire skill to me just for that. Especially because, like, you could argue you could be able to make sounds with ritualism anyway. But that's by the by. I wouldn't do much with this unless I really wanted to lean heavily into it. Sound barrier. You can get 5 skill levels in this, and after you sing a verse with medium or high volume, all physical damage you suffer until the start of the next turn is reduced by skill level, which is pretty cool. So, like, it's free damage reduction. You know, like I've said it before, damage reduction is great, but because enemies target at random in Fabula Ultima, you might set this up to receive less damage and then just not be hit. And it's until the start of your next turn, so it doesn't last. And then the last one, vibrato. After you sing a verse with low or medium volume, you may perform a free attack with a weapon you have equipped. Treat your high roll as 0 when calculating damage dealt by this attack. So you can use that in combination with other classes to be able to trigger more skills after you do a verse, but it doesn't work with high volume, so you can't, like, stack the damage from your high volume magic chants, which is a shame. So that's the chanter's normal skills. I'll go through the heroic skills. So the first one is power chord. So when you sing a verse with, let me zoom in to make that more obvious. When you sing a verse with medium or high volume, you may double the verse's cost in mind points, or spend 1 Fabula point. If you do, you and every ally that is able to hear you gain the following benefit until the start of your next turn. Your accuracy checks trigger a critical success when both dice show the same number, as long as the check is not a fumble. Notice it says accuracy checks and not magic checks is one thing. And this, like, can potentially turn a miss into a hit, but you have to double the verse's mind points to do it. I wish this was just a thing that didn't cost extra mind points, because it's not incredible. Like, you'd have to get double 2, double 3, double 4, or double 5 for this to count, and the chances of that is still slim. Like again, it can turn a hit into a miss, but I don't think this is worth a heroic skill, to be honest. Like the Fury gets this with specific weapons, admittedly, as just a normal skill. So I think this costs too much to use. But the next one is called Theme Song. Theme Song. So when you acquire the skill, you attain a theme song. Give it a name and assign it a key from one of the ones you've learned. So to remind you, key is one of these: flame, frost, iron, thunder, and so on and so forth. Let me put that back to the skills. Once per conflict scene, after you sing a verse in your theme songs key, you may start your theme song. If it's a real song, it's greater data play in the background. While singing the theme song, you gain the following benefits. You gain resistance to the theme song's key type damage. When you deal theme song's key type damage, you deal 5 extra damage, and the type of that damage cannot be changed. The MP cost for singing verses in the same key as your theme song is halved. The benefits applied to you and any of your allies will be able to sing verses. The theme song lasts until the end of the scene or until you leave the scene, die, or fall unconscious. The theme song also ends as soon as you sing a verse in a key other than the theme song. And if your turn ends and you have not sung any verse let me read again. The theme song also ends as soon as you sing a verse in a key other than the theme song. If your turn ends and you have not sung any verse, or if another character starts their theme song. I don't like it. I wanted to like it. Like, I wanted this to mean that the song keeps happening. Like, you gain resistance to the song's damage the whole time, and you deal extra damage for the type, right? And your MP is halved. But all of these effects, like, that happen, until the start of your next turn, I just wish it just, like, extended it for one extra turn or something like that. Like, and the fact that this only works once per conflict scene, which means that you can't reapply it if it happens. If you don't sing any verse, so if you do anything else with your action, it ends. And unconscious is fine, like that makes sense. But it's just, there's so much to stop it, and you can only do it once, and you gain so little. Like, I don't know, it's just like think about it more, right? It has to be the theme songs. You have to pick the key, right? So you can only pick one of these as your theme song. You can't change it. So in order to make the most out of theme song, you'd have to get, obviously, the 1 point at least in Magic Chant to be able to use these. But having loads of tones would be more beneficial, right? But each tone is better when you know multiple keys, so you can change the effects. So I feel this shoots itself in the foot. Like, there's too much that can stop it, and there's too little gain for, like, a heroic skill. So I wouldn't take this either. And these are the two high fantasy heroic skills. But there is one in the Techno Fantasy Atlas which is somehow worse. Right? Let me put it up on this page. So it's called Hit the Nerve. So there's a steep requirement first. You must have mastered either the Chanter. Oh no, you must have mastered one or more classes out of the Chanter and Orator. Yeah, so either one, and acquire the Condemn skill. The Condemn skill is an Orator skill only. So when you successfully use the Condemn skill against an enemy you know one or more traits of, so you have to know things about it first. You recover an amount of mind points equal to half the total amount of MP lost by the target, and you may have them suffer enraged instead of the normal status of X. So this gives you extra statuses, which is good. Additionally, when you perform an opposed check against an enraged creature or an accuracy check or magic check for an attack or offensive spell, note not a chant, that includes one or more enraged creatures among its targets, you may trigger a critical success and both dice show the same number. Okay, that makes sense, not a chant, because you don't roll for chants, so ignore that part, sorry. But this has nothing to do with the Chanter. Like, it doesn't interact with the Chanter in any way. It doesn't make the Chanter better. It does nothing. Like, I don't know why. this is Chanter, it should just be Orator. Like, the only use case I can see for this, right, is if you start as an Orator, have the Condemn skill, for some reason want to max out the Chanter first, and really want this. That's the only use case. Like, in that use case, when you go back to Orator and finish maxing the Orator, you can pick, like, there's other skills that work with Condemn, so you can double up, and then you can have that be even better again. But I don't get it. Like, I wouldn't take any of these unless I was an Orator. Like, but then you can just take Orator skills, or you can take anything else. Like, none of these 3 skills are really worth it, in my opinion. But that's just what this is. It's my opinion. Obviously, feel free to disagree. Let me know in the comments what you think, if you agree or not. And yeah, that'll about do it for my video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you for the next one. Goodbye.